Let's pray and get started. Thank you, Lord, for today. We thank you for all the blessings, for all the mercy you've extended to us. Pray that you just watch over the ones that couldn't make it today, whether it be from illness or scheduling problems or whatever the case might be. Just let us lift them to you. Watch over them, protect them, allow people to intersect them and let them know that we've talked about them, prayed for them, and that you watch over the ones, Lord, that are across the street hearing a message, that there would be a chance for them to run into the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit would have sway over them at a particular time, and they say yes to you. And as we study your word today, Lord, I pray that you just allow us to do it with the direction of the Holy Spirit, with your tremendous grace, just opening things that we may not normally see. And in doing so, allow us to have information for when we step into the world that is not very friendly to us, and allow us to use it wisely in your name. Amen. Amen. Okay. Where we be? We have to flip over to 239. Is that where we're at? Pretty good, huh? Yeah. Now, with everything that's going on, here's a little ditty for you. A saved sinner is a nobler work of God than would be an irresponsible man who needed no salvation. What are they talking about? Yes, sir.
Why do they have to throw the word irresponsible in there?
Because when you don't have parameters, you don't do things, it doesn't matter to you. The best thing you can put in your head is the Lord had to allow sin into this world to exhibit free will. Otherwise, you would have an individual here that didn't need salvation. Why?
And his brain. Right?
His brain would be set up, and there wouldn't be any sin in it. There wouldn't be anything going on. But there are also no responsibilities with that type of life. How many of you have ever worked with a brand spanking new individual on a job site? You're the one training them. All right? How does that work? That individual has no responsibility. Henceforth, they are able to make mistakes. They don't think for themselves. Why? Because they expect you to think for them. And then when they do make a mistake, they have an out because they say, well, I didn't know.
I've already fired. He's gone.
Giving their walking papers. But all I'm saying is that's why it's really neat. Now, the thing that you need to really pay attention to is not, this is what grabs people's eye, always. They think this is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a statement about an individual that has no problem, doesn't have any decision-making wrestling matches at all. This is the word you need to hang on to.
What is that word?
Nobler.
Nobler.
Nobler. I mean, you know what a noble person is. I mean, he gets slung around like crazy. I mean, everybody watched Ivanhoe with Robert Taylor, right?
Oh, you're going back.
He was a nobleman, all right? He was also a knight. But here's the deal. His name was Ivanhoe. Thank you. Here's the deal. Noble has to do with an individual that has integrity of his own stead or inserted into him because of his position. He's quote unquote a noble man. All right? And this individual right here, he sees a problem, he knows he has to overcome it. He doesn't run from it, he doesn't stop at it. And then again, he's got qualities that individuals pay attention to, whether it be morality, kindness, bravery, courage, all of those things. That's what this is. Now, in God's schedule, the reason that you're a noble project, so to speak, is because you have been inserted with His righteousness. Now you've got qualities that exhibit nobleness.
So who is a man who doesn't need salvation? That's a dead person.
Well, it is a dead person, but I'm sorry, Adam didn't need salvation when the show started.
He had free will.
He didn't need it.
Well, he hadn't chosen. He hadn't chosen to make his gift.
In other words, he hadn't gone irresponsible yet. See what I'm saying? It's not a bad word. We make it a bad word. Okay? But there are qualities with an individual that doesn't necessarily make that a bad word.
Give me an example or two.
Of a good, irresponsible person?
Okay.
I would say any 4-year-old kid running around. I told Tansy not to run in the family room. She was running everywhere. Eventually, she ran and fell against the heart. And when she fell against the heart, she split her eye. Well, that was a problem, but it wasn't. She didn't listen. She was exhibiting free will, but she didn't have a knowledge of what happens when you hit a hunk of rock.
Were you there?
Oh yeah, I pitched it shut, took her there, and had to hold her down while they stitched it up. Everybody else goes the other direction.
I was there, I cried.
I was watching through the tears.
Yeah,
So-
right along with her.
So anyway, that's the type of scenario that you got. This individual here makes decisions, but there's not a lot of consequence to them. And in our world, now there are. But in this world, there aren't.
What is that?
This is
Second
Adam.
line.
This is Adam's world right here.
Second line, first word.
Work,
Word, oh.
work of God. A noble person is a work of God. That's somebody that stepped into salvation. Okay? Like I said, you don't realize how unique you are because you're saved. I mean, it's amazing what's available to you because of salvation,
So
but
another
most
way to
people
say that would be
don't really pay any attention.
somebody who is come of age and knows he needs to be saved, and he is saved, is a nobler work of art than a kid who hasn't reached the age of
Yeah,
responsibility.
you can try it that
Is
way.
that another way to
That's
say it?
that's fine, but I wouldn't even put it that far down the road. I really wouldn't. It's the type of thing that an individual is out there, they're making decisions, God made them, they're fine, and that when they get to a decision point, there's no consequences to it. Angels have no consequences to their decisions, except one. When they said they didn't want to follow God, show was
A
over.
misuse of their gift.
Okay, so,
I was just gonna say that, and I don't mean this in a wrong way or anything, but people that are very, mentally slow,
okay.
that would be an example.
You could use it that way. God is very, 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 very lenient in those pictures. The Holy Spirit is the only individual that can peddle Jesus. That's not a good word. Can expound on Jesus, extend Christ and salvation to any mindset.
It's the Holy Spirit.
Any mindset. There are no IQ parameters to salvation. None.
Because the Bible says the Holy Spirit's the only one that knows the mind of God.
There you go. So he knows what he can work with, how he can work, and all of that. And some of their irresponsibility is from ignorance. That's to be expected. Okay? I remember Kim and Jay telling me over and over again how many times they had to tell Zach to do something before it became ingrained in him. Don't touch the hot burner. I figured out real quick that if he was afraid of trees at the beginning of the shooting match. And I had to change the doorknob on the door. Well, if there wasn't a doorknob, Zach could get out. So I took one of their internal trees and set it by the door. So his whole world changed because he couldn't get out the door because there was a tree there, and a tree was a problem. So I can work with that stuff. But the thing is, he didn't realize why. He had no reason to be afraid of a tree. But that was what his mind was doing. Okay? So, like I said, there's just a lot of things. But a noble individual is somebody that, like you guys, that has made a choice, and as a result of that choice, you are glorifying the handiwork of God every time you make a wise decision upon your decision of salvation.
Bobby,
Yes, ma'am.
I see it as we were before we came to this class, before you taught us
Okay.
the righteousness of God.
Okay.
So really,
Sure.
some of us did-
Yeah, you can put it that way. Yeah, some of the things that you were making decisions on were irresponsible because you had bad truth. Bad truth is not generate good outcome.
Where would you fit in a carnal Christian in that formula?
I wouldn't.
He's saved,
I wouldn't.
but he still hasn't completely
This,
given
yeah,
himself.
I need you again to understand. This is not tying to somebody that's lost or saved. This is in the beginning program. I want you to look at this as if this is Adam, pre-sin. Don't go to carnal Christians and all that. That's a different venue altogether. That's somebody that's physically and mentally turning his back on Christ, even though he knows the no. He has a knowledge of it, okay? So, at any rate. And this gentleman here, just so you know, this was a Presbyterian. So they actually did have good doctrine for a long time. This is from the 40s. Okay? So, you know, things kind of wane and change, but the older books, you can find solid doctrine whenever you search. Don't hesitate to search old books. Okay? So, all right. 325 is what we're on, right?
Page 3.
Verse 320, yeah, verse 325. Continue. All right.
What?
Page 239. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess you up. I'm looking at the verse, you're looking at the page number. I apologize.
Don't do that.
Because, I know, because of the, I apologize. Because of the passing by, okay? Passing by. Okay? That's a term that a lot of people don't like, but it exists. It's in the scripture here, and Paul wrote it. You have to understand, Paul likes the Old Testament. Shirley would be very happy. Okay? All right? Because for a long time, Shirley thought I didn't like the Old Testament. Passing by. Pay attention to it. Because of the passing by of sins. Now there's a little insert before that. Having previously occurred. How do you say that word, Scott?
Progono.
Yeah, there's that one. Yeah, you can forget my tongue doing that kind of stuff this early in the morning. Okay? You see what it talks about? These are all believers prior to the cross. They all believed something. Okay? What did they believe? And if anybody tells me they believe the Ten Commandments, I'm going to kick you out that door so fast. It had anything to do with the Ten Commandments. It had to do with a belief system in the God. They didn't know it was Christ. But they knew it was a belief system and they had to attach themselves to it. The outcome belonged to God. That's why they believed something, and all the sins that they committed that you and I can 1 John 1:9, they had put on a ledger. That ledger was pulled out at the cross and put onto Christ. And everything was wiped away. Now, here's another thing. This is one thing you need to pay attention to. I wrote it below, and you have to see it. A cup. Anybody cook? Anybody take a shot at cooking? Okay. What is a cup? It is a measure. It is a measure. Yeah, it is a measure of something. Okay. Now, if I want to put this morning when I put that deer roast in, I had to put 1/3 of a cup of balsamic vinegar in it. That's gonna be sweet. Yeah. In it. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I would have done it, but I wasn't getting up at 4 to do it.
Well.
I'm sorry.
What time do you want us to come over?
I think it'd be done at noon. We'll get the plates out and just start, when it runs out, we're done. All right? But I had to have something that would hold 1/3 of a cup. All right? So I got me a measuring cup out. I dumped that balsamic vinegar in there, got my 1/3 of a cup, and then poured it all over the tigers and the carrots and onions and the deer meat, and put that rascal in there with a little bit of thyme and basil and all the other doodads that were in there. And then I put the lid on.
I'm hungry.
Sorry, dude. Cup. You have to have a receptacle the moment you say you want to know Jesus Christ. The receptacle becomes Jesus Christ. Anybody watch The Last Crusade? Andy and his dad.
Yeah.
Remember him?
Oh, good, because I was gonna say I'm really not that old.
Yeah, man. Andy? Yeah, okay. All right, you got it? What were they looking for in this particular Andy? You remember? What did they call it? The Holy Grail. They're looking for a chalice. They're looking for a cup. They're looking for a cup that belonged to somebody. The carpenter. They're looking for the cup that belonged to Christ. All right? The moment you accept Jesus Christ, you are handed the cup. The chalice that everybody in our ever-loving uncle is looking for, you're handed that cup spiritually. Now, all these people that believe in the passing by, when we got to the cross, he can now, how did they do that one? Wasn't it just a simple little guy?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay. There. Let me see some illustration on it.
If you remember the movie, that's the one that they thought it would because it looked impressive. It turned out in the movie.
No, the one that they had a bunch of diamonds and doodads around the top. This one was simple.
Yeah.
Okay? Simple carpenter. All right? And the deal is, now that I've got this, the Lord can now give me that righteousness that He's going to give me at the cross. So now I'm justified. So He pours into that chalice. That's what you got filled up with. That's what they're talking about here. These folks all got this at the cross. They got it in past tense. They were already hanging out in heaven, at the edge of heaven, and when this took place, they got the rest of the package. You and I, on the other hand, we get it as we're walking on planet Earth. Now, when we study, doctrine causes this to overflow. Why? He wants you to mature. He wants you to grow up. He wants you to take in more and more and more of Him so that you're secure, you've got good roots put down, and as you got good roots put down, you're studying and studying and studying, and you're digging up more and more and more, and it's just dumping out all over heck and back, and you're getting it all over everybody that you're around. That's your job. That's a simple job. That doesn't have anything to do with you. It has to do with the doctrine. It cannot stay contained. It's got to have a home. All right? So these folks now know that. Now it says, to have a cup, pail, or basket, to run it over, no cup, no blessing. The only place God can pour is where God's righteousness is present. Hence, this becomes plus R. That chalice in you becomes plus R. In everything you do, you are plus R. You already have a cup.
Would it be safe to say the cup is always full?
Oh yeah.
It's never empty, it doesn't go down, but it could possibly go over. Is
You
that
know, I was thinking the
right?
same thing. My analogy was, you got the righteousness, you're sipping on it. You're not going to drink it because you can't take it in all at once. As soon as it goes down any, He's filling it. So you're never going to empty it.
Correct. And the more doctrine and you have to understand, this is Christ's mind, by the way. That's what's in that cup. It's the mind of Christ. So what it amounts to is, just like John and Allie are saying, this thing's already at the edge. You can take a little bit of it, but the thing of it is the more you take in, the more you want to take in, the more you're going to have more stuff than the cup can handle. And that's why you end up having answers for people that you have no clue where they came from.
Which kind of plays into the baby,
Uh-huh.
at the beginning you can only sip so much, so
Sure.
but He's going to keep it filled up. If you want to gobble it down, He'll fill that up also.
What happens if you feed your baby too fast?
Regurgitate.
Did you see the look on everybody's face? Ooh, that was a painful one. That's what happens. So that's why you have to understand, one of the things the Bible does kind of put out a lot is balance. Don't take in so much that you can't get, you got to take it from doctrinal input to experiential knowledge so that you're using it as you go.
You're actually practicing.
Yeah, you have to practice it.
Where would then, therefore, the comment by Paul, he's telling the people what to do, and he said to the effect that I'm doing it myself so that I won't end up being rejected after sharing it with other people.
Sure.
Fit that in there.
Well, the thing of it is, you have to understand with Paul, I don't know how he survived 3 years in the desert with everything that was shoved into his head and nobody to tell. I'll bet he was talking to cacti and rocks and snakes and anything that was going by, just dumping stuff on him like crazy, because there was just volumes of this. But even though he had volumes of knowledge, he never forgot his source, and he never forgot from where he came. So he always was humble, okay? Oops, there should be an M in there. So he never had that problem of, I have a lot of information, but I don't ever want to disseminate that information as if it's coming from me.
Also, too, you have to couple with that, don't you? The personal practicing of it.
Sure.
You
I mean, he
can
did,
know more-
he did
You can
everything.
know more than you're practicing and get into trouble and be rejected by other people because you're not practicing.
Let me,
what
yeah,
you
let me
should.
explain something to you. If you want to see what it's like when a super mature Christian, okay, mature, super mature, Paul, when he falls off the wagon. Okay? Track it down to when he went back to Troas. Troas, I'm not sure how you T-R-O, it might be somewhere in that neighborhood.
TROAS.
Okay, whatever, okay. And he went, in other words, he went home. And he didn't go home to a Christian atmosphere, he went home to a super Jewish atmosphere. And was bombarded by, why are you doing this? What are you doing? How about this? How come you haven't done this? When are you gonna go and have your head shaved so that you're, doing what you're supposed to do? So please, he was not above telling you this information, the Holy Spirit. And please understand something. Holy Spirit's writing all this, but who has to put it in print? Paul. Can you imagine sitting there writing down your biggest stumble in your ever-loving life on the pages of something that's going to be around for thousands and thousands and thousands and eternity and eternity and eternity?
You think he was aware of it in terms of what you're talking about, or only in terms of it being a letter that he wrote to somebody?
No, he knew
that wouldn't
exactly what he was talking about.
I mean, he knew what he was talking about, but do you think his frame of mind was
Sure.
oriented toward the Bible we've got?
He's the only guy you know of that ever talks about anything in terms of eternity. He said, I'm running
I
the...
know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Everything that they did was always the
Right,
letters.
everybody
Just
thinks, well, I
letters.
didn't have all the information I have now. No, he had it all. What it amounts to is, he had, anybody that talks about winning a race, I don't want to come in second, knows exactly what's at stake. Who came in second in the Super Bowl 2 years ago? Who came in second in the Super Bowl last year?
Who played?
I have no clue. Okay, you see what I'm saying? All right, now, you ask anybody what one thing that they always talk about Paul is running a race. You always hear that. Every sermon you ever hear, oh, Paul was running the race. Looking for that big headgear when he was done. Okay? Well, spiritually, he was already there. He knew exactly what was going on. This made it even more clear to him when he had that problem.
You have
Now,
those folks, like your previous statement, where they had no clue who Jesus was. You got folks like Abraham who entertained the Lord.
I think they probably had a much better handle on it.
Joshua,
Joshua probably did.
Jacob wrestled with the Lord.
He wrestled with the Lord. And my thing is, since now, I don't know if he put the name Jesus with it or God with it, because Jesus really wasn't known of as of that. They spoke to God, and when I wrestled with an individual, I'm sure, I kind of have the impression that Jacob thought he was wrestling with God, not knowing that the only way that you can have a physical being is Christ.
That's
You know,
why for
the Old Testament, what is it, Christophanies in the Old Testament, when Christ has a physical presence? I think that's what it is. I think they knew they had talked to the big guy. Abraham for sure. Whether they knew him as Jesus, that I can't say, but I do know that whatever importance they put on that individual in front of them, God counted it into them as righteousness.
That's why.
That means you got a handle on not the terminology, but the idea, the concept of it. That's the way that I read the Bible. I mean, if you've got a whole bunch of people that want to turn against you, and you say, oh, by the way, me and my family, we're going to serve the Lord, which is God, Jehovah. I mean, that's a good time for everybody else to say, I'm not really sure I'm into this. But he didn't have a problem with it because he knew where everything stood. So that's how but there are people that didn't. I think John, the beloved, quote unquote, I think he grasped the concept. But he didn't get a full picture of it until he was on Patmos. and was flooded with information. Peter didn't get it till after Christ was gone, although he had glimpses of it. When I would imagine the first glimpse came when he saw him the set after he had denied him. That song they sing,
These are one.
that one, it gives you a good indication of how Peter was internalizing what was going on when he saw his Christ after he had denied him. So there are times when they get a little snippet of it, but then afterwards, then they start writing books like 1st and 2nd Peter. That's not the same Peter that was denying Christ. That's somebody that bought into the program and knew exactly what he was speaking
I don't
of.
think they could have gotten it until
Um,
after he died, because you see, Christ
It-
had
it
sent
would
the
be
Holy
very- it would be
Spirit
very
to
difficult.
teach them until after he left.
It would. It would be exceedingly difficult to grasp something in the future tense when you're standing there looking at him and he's functioning in front of you.
Yeah.
I get that completely. That's why I say you can't be really that tough on them, because they're working with abstracts, and you and I have a full volume, a full canon of scripture with all the information. They didn't have that. But that does not take a thing away from the Holy Spirit that was interacting with them, because they had to have all of that information going through their head as they were penning it.
Well, it didn't hurt them that they witnessed miracles.
Correct. Didn't hurt a thing. Not one living thing. But you'll notice they didn't all go out and try to work miracles. As a matter of fact, when they did go out and try to work miracles, they came back and said, yeah, it's a miracle thing didn't work so good.
Yes, it doesn't work on us.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. A couple of weirdos out there, it just doesn't make any effect.
See, the bad thing
So-
about it is that they saw the miracles, they witnessed it.
Correct.
Which was concrete.
Correct.
But the funky thing about it is that if you have power and it's inside the wrong mind,
Right.
because they thought, even though they saw the miracles, they thought they were gonna be God's right-hand man, and they were gonna kill off all the Romans, and they were gonna be
Yeah.
primary.
Oh, yeah, they thought
everybody
this
else.
was going to be the...
So they had all of
hard
that,
part.
but they still didn't get it.
Yeah, but understand something. Even today, every time she takes in doctrine, it's going into a sin nature filled vessel. It's got Christ in it, but there's a whole lot of stuff around it. How many of you have driven up north in the snow?
I quit
Okay.
that a long time ago.
Okay, well, the reason I say that is, how many of you have driven on snow that has had ice put on the roads?
I quit that a long time ago.
Okay, you quit that a long time ago. I think that's gonna be your answer for a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's the deal. You're driving through, everything is just white and pristine. You think, oh man, this is so cool. I remember driving from Baltimore to DC, and it was just the prettiest thing driving through all that snow. No noise, no nothing. Every now and again, a car would slide off the road and go somewhere that I didn't wanna go, you know, that kind of stuff. But it was really pretty. But after everything settled out, and I got home, you know what I had to do every time? I had to wash the salt off of the car. Why?
Because they won't let you have studded tires in Illinois.
It was, yeah, really. Yeah, really.
Rust.
Well, that's the thing you have to understand. You're driving through something that looks very good, doctrine, but there's truckloads of stuff slinging off your tires, getting all over the back of the car, the front of the car, the side of the car, and when it all dries out, you say, well, it was clean as ever, it was snowing out. And you look and there's that white residue all over everything. Understand something? That's exactly how Satan wants you to think. Well, that must just be from the snow. No, that's from the salt. That's the corrosive part of the world trying to get after you. And you need to keep washing it off. Then how do you wash it? The regeneration of your renewed mind. Okay? So that's just the way that this stuff's put together. And if you pay attention to it that way, I don't worry about all the junk out there that's trying to hammer on me. I'm aware that it's there. And I'm depending on him.
No, I was just gonna say, don't worry about it.
No.
Tomorrow will get here soon enough.
Well, that's right. And I hand it over to him and say, okay, you know, I realize this is coming. What do we do to mitigate it? Or what do you do to me to make sure I'm strong enough to take it? And so on and so forth. That's how you deal with this stuff. You don't go henceforth. You have the noble man attitude in your head because you've got Christ in there. And the fact you've got Christ in there, you look at it entirely differently. Okay? It's just that's a beneficial thing. then we go to verse 26. And when it put it together, it says, because of the passing by of having previously incurred sins, to demonstrate at the present time his righteousness. So why is he bypassing stuff? Why is he passing them by? Because he's going forward to the cross to show righteousness is going to show up on the scene and take care of all that loot back there. That's what they're trying to do. All right? Does it read right? It's going to read different in every Bible. So this might be from King James or from the other one I have with the Greek in it, you know. So anyway, that he might be just and the justifier of the one who has faith in Jesus. So what is he talking about?
Or had, or ever had.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, you have to understand, he doesn't worry about time. He worries about the other stuff. Here's the cross, and everybody's showing up, and everybody knows that this is the righteous one. What did Simeon say when he brought him, when they brought the little kid to him in the temple? You remember what he said? He thanked the Lord most profusely for allowing him to see the Messiah coming. Okay? Now there's somebody that had no clue as to what was going on other than current events news, but he took in doctrine. He ended up having a cup. The cup was filled, and the cup was filled with righteousness so that he had clear thinking decisions when he saw that baby. And he made a statement to that effect. Everything I've studied for my whole life has been standing here waiting for him to show up in my temple and be presented to me. Ta-da. That's how that works. Righteousness was handed to Simeon, and he recognized it. Henceforth, everywhere God's righteousness is inserted, every one of you that has a cup, it is noted by God. He knows exactly where you are. He identifies you where you are, and he deals with you where you are. Hence, if you're outside the parameters, you still have the R. That's why you don't mind asking that question. Pull me back. Give me doctrine to pull me back. Give me a mindset to pull me back. That's what you're shooting for. All right? Now, and it says that he might be just, and we already know that he is. Why? Because we have half of it. We got justice over here, and we got righteousness over here. We're the plus R, and the justice to bless anything that is plus R. He sees Scott's doing exceedingly well this week in the plus R neighborhood. Okay? So what's he going to do for him? Scott has no clue. I don't know what Scott's asking for. You know? That new Mercedes in the driveway, I have no clue what it is, okay? All right? But the thing of it is if justice sees an opportunity, it might be for us to finally figure out those 10 verses that he gave me about how to figure out those verses that he's working on. And if that's the case, he says he's diligent, he's working at it, he's noble, he's got everything, and since he's plus R, my justice says, and he'll know I'm just, I'm going to feed that information to him. The verse that's in John, what does it say? All unrighteousness is sin. Is that what it is? Quality of sin. Okay. What?
No, that was the question. So why is it, when is it, this is gonna get frustrating. Okay. No, is
You
it
and Scott can get
personal
together and have a symposium on it, okay?
sin? Is it personal sin? Is it old sin nature? Why is it only a quality of sin if there's not an article?
Okay, see, these are questions that he's asking. But the thing of it is there's a reason that we haven't got our answer yet. Either it's not knowable, because we don't need to know, which I find cop-out. Holy Spirit doesn't have to have that problem. Okay. Or we need to acquire more information, more knowledge, and more maturity before he gives us the answer.
Or maybe he has answered it, and we don't know how to listen to it.
Well, that's possible. Are you not listening again, Scott? Okay. What is it? Check your batteries, Alma. Something's wrong with that thing, okay? You just have to, what I'm saying is, there could be different scenarios that are going through. That's why you don't stop looking, okay? These you don't ever stop looking, all right?
I think the reason you use quality of sin is because it determines that sin and unrighteousness are two different things.
Separate guys, yes.
They're not the same.
And that's Kevin's wrestling point. I know, that's what we're trying to figure out. Okay? So when you're confused, you can join the symposium, okay? I'm just telling you, if you've got certain thought processes, and if you ask a different question, you have a different outcome of what you're doing. And that's what we're wrestling with. Kevin is excellent about making you think. Doc McGee was excellent at saying the weirdest, off-the-wall stuff that just sent you on a search to get an answer for something that you didn't even know was a question. Okay? Hence, Kevin is very good at that. And there's times, what is it he didn't like? He doesn't.
Everybody doesn't know who Kevin is.
Kevin is the guy that teaches us Greek. He has a Grace Bible Institute on Monday nights where he has a 4-year plan where you can learn different chunks of the Bible and different, Christian life and hamartiology and Christ and angels and yada, yada, yada. And you go through it in semesters. But it's just a good overall learning curve of getting stuff together and putting it in one pile. Okay? Very good at it. And he surrounded himself with a couple people that are good. Judd is good at Greek. Not so good at teaching Hebrew, but he's good at Greek. Okay? But the thing of it is, with all these people, they make us think on different levels that you would not normally think. Henceforth, God does not hesitate for a thinker to show up at the table. Okay? And it doesn't hurt a thing. But with all of these things going on like this, these questions are questions that I legitimately want answers for. If there's an answer to be had.
Let me ask you something. God wants us to have everything He knows already that we can
No.
handle of His doctrine.
No.
He doesn't
No.
want us to know doctrine.
No. Let's put it this way. Everything that's in print that might be doctrine we can get to doesn't mean you're going to understand it.
Well, that's what I'm starting to say.
Okay.
Because is He, in your opinion, is He going to give us more if we're not even starting to try to use
No.
what He gave us already?
The cup, it's sitting there. You just
It's
drink
right
what
here.
you
You
can
already
use.
have it, but you can't make it overflow unless you put more in.
Right, He's not going to take you to the next lesson
No.
until you start practicing the lesson He did before.
No, that's why I say it's really important for people to realize what the word says. Not what they think it says, what it says. Because sometimes that'll spur you on to do different things than you would do under normal circumstances. Okay? Just like I said, Romans 8:1 has a little glitch on the end of it that puts a caveat to condemnation. Okay? I don't know how many of your Bibles have that little end in Romans 8:1. Therefore, there is no condemnation to those that are in Christ Jesus. And what's the little caveat that goes after it that is not in the Greek?
Walk according to the Spirit.
Walk according to the Spirit. That is not in there. It is not in any of the text. Somebody put it in there because they had a problem with what they were writing and thought people maybe not understand it. Well, the thing of it is no condemnation unless is not no condemnation. Sorry. And I'm not a grammar student, but I could figure that one out. So you have to pay attention to that stuff. So, at any rate, as we keep on going through here, it says the forbearance that he talks about with passing over. In the forbearance, the day of judgment or clemency that he has at the cross, he put that on hold for everybody in the Old Testament. And he doesn't mind doing it. Why? Because he sees it all as a finished product. He knows Christ is coming, he knows everything's going to get squared away, and the righteousness that he applied to all these Old Testament folks is going to be taken care of at the cross. That's what he's talking about. And it said God. And this is not of God. This is from God. Okay? Does that make sense? Big difference here. Of God? No. Forbearance of God? No. God took time in His essence to say this is part of the plan, and I'm not going to apply any of these to these individuals because they don't have all the information. Hence, dispensations. As the dispensation got further down the line, you had more information. The more information you have, we have the most. We are the most accountable group of people on planet Earth right now. And doing the least amount with it. But that's okay. There are enough people out there that are doing something with it that causes the pivot to work in our favor at times. And that's all we're looking for.
But with the information can come a lot of disinformation.
Oh, shucks.
So that's where it
Shucks.
throws a little,
Yeah, just figure there's gonna be tons of salt on your car.
yeah, I mean, the
Time.
Satan's going,
Yeah. And, yeah, oh, heck yeah. He said, oh man, I got a good one over it. And when you read different books, the Heaton book I've read, all the different ones of what they believe about the essences of God. Some of them don't think there's a triune God. Some of them think that there's a triune God, but they don't all know the same thing. Some of them think that God does this thing, but he tells the other two what to do, and they're subordinates. I mean, there's just more hoop than Heinz has picked. God is not as good as his creation. God created something that he can't control. There's more garbage out there that the mind of man can pick up, that they have no clue what they're doing. And sometimes that individual's bent that way, so they grab onto it and away they go. Hence, Christian Science.
divide and conquer.
Yeah, oh shucks, yeah. That's his mode of doing business. So that's what they're shooting for. Now, and it says, God did not judge the Old Testament sins, an ablative of source. He held up the judgment until Christ could get on the cross. Held up. Didn't not do it. Okay? Make sure. Kevin has a hard time with Christ in the Old Testament. I'm not sure why. I mean, I look at it, it looks like he's everywhere. And then you got the other people that have the crimson thread through the whole Old Testament.
What's the problem he has?
Nothing.
In a nutshell, I mean, within the Old Testament.
Nothing. I don't know. I don't know what people have a problem
No,
with.
no, Kevin, you said Kevin.
Oh,
has-
Kevin, I don't know what his catch is. He just doesn't think Christ is, I don't know whether it's because it doesn't physically, Kevin's one of the ones that if it doesn't say it, I'm not going there. Okay? Extrapolation is a problem for him. You know, where you put a bunch of stuff together and come out with another, with an answer. He doesn't, it took me a while to get him to get into that neighborhood. So, but some people just have a problem with it.
In other words, he's just too.
And I don't think it's a non-belief. I think it's the fact that since it doesn't flat out say, well, Jesus came into this or Jesus did that, but he's well aware of what the Greek says about when things were started and when the world was put together, and the one that put it together is the Christ. I mean, he's well aware of that. I'm just sure. I don't know. I have no idea. Doesn't bother me. I'll pick your brain and use everything I can. The rest of it you can have. I don't mind a bit. I'll learn anything I can from anybody. When they get off base, I'll just put it aside and not use it. This one right here, this Heaton guy where I got some of this information, he talked about the fact that, oh, by the way, when you come to salvation and everything's lined up and good, you get to walk. Your salvation allows you to go through purgatory and not have any attachments. I go, whoa! Boop, boop, boop. You know, all kinds of red lights. But I do. Then I find out he's an old-time Presbyterian, and they're just a stone's throw away from Catholic, so it doesn't have a problem. Further on down the way, he says, but by the way, Christ is all. So, you know, you just look at it with a discerning eye, you don't have a problem for it. All right? So God is doing this, and he says, for the showing forth of the righteousness of him. And I want you to understand, see this word demonstration? That demonstration, every time a Jewish high priest went into the temple, Holy of Holies, it was a demonstration of what was going to take place in the future. It was a demonstration of Christ coming to planet Earth, dying and using his blood one time that had to be done every year up till that point. Demonstration. Shadow. All right? That's what they're talking about here. Showing forth the righteousness of God in Christ was done in the Old Testament over and over again, which allowed the Old Testament saints to pick up on it. I would imagine they were more impressed by a column of fire and a column of clouds than anything you can shake out, and a bunch of manna dropping on the ground, and a bunch of quail coming through about hip high that you could knock down with sticks, but it did not anchor them as we are anchored in Jesus Christ today. The moment the quail quit, and the moment the manna, you got tired of manna, or they tried to squirrel it away and use it the next day and it had worms on it, I'm sure you got a little bit disenchanted with that God guy, because he's not really taking care of him. Anybody that didn't have to have their shoes changed for 40 years has got to figure something's going on. I mean, I'm just telling you, there's got to be some, you know, something, somebody missed the program, all right? So that's just basically where they're at. So he's talking about that and his righteousness, his integrity with emphasis on righteousness. All right, he doesn't mind taking himself and pushing one of his attributes out there for you to use. How many of you have ever been called a righteous individual in the course of common conversation? Ever had that?
Same as a goody two-shoes.
They might spell it that way, okay?
In the 60s, we used to say,
Righteous. Righteous.
You are the righteous brothers.
I'm thinking it lost a little luster with that one though, okay? So,
Bobby, you do it all the time.
I do.
Yeah, you call us.
I do, but the thing of it is that's why you should be called. I mean, if somebody keeps telling you that enough, somewhere along the line, you're gonna hook that puppy on your belt and pick it up and look at it every now and again. Really, I ought to get a little leather strap with a big R on it, so that every now and again, when you feel like you're a scumbag, you can flip that rascal up and look at it and say, by God, I am a plus R. I shouldn't be in this neighborhood.
So you should hang it from your rearview mirror.
Well, that would work too. Yeah, but then the people that are blowing off probably wouldn't.
But
There goes another righteous
is that
idiot
your good eye or
driving.
your bad eye?
Yeah, but that's true. That would probably work well.
I think the problem
So-
is that people are looking at it and righteous,
Mhm.
that they don't put the little word in front of it. His.
Yes, that's the deal. I don't want anybody to think you're self-righteous. It's always his righteousness. That's why it's plus R. It's not you are. Okay? Just so that you got that right. Anyway, he's talking about his righteousness of him, possessive pronoun. God and his righteousness is the of him that they're speaking. The source is what they're speaking of. And, you flip it over, in the present time. What are we talking about? Present time then was when? Paul was walking planet Earth, he was penning his letter, and everything was going on. And everything was in a state of flux, because why? The church has been drawn out of Jerusalem. Why? Because it was getting too powerful and was sucking up too many Jews. And as that was happening, there was more and more pressure put on the church. So the more pressure that was put on the church, the more they had to depend on the chalice, and the more they had to depend on righteousness to keep them going. They didn't have these phenomenal mausoleums that they have now. They had huts, houses, caves, hovels, whatever you want to call it, to meet in, sometimes in a field. But it did not suppress their belief system at all. It did not suppress them taking the bread and the cup, and it did not suppress anything that had to do with Jesus Christ. Okay? So, what you need to realize is, when they're talking about this stuff, they're talking about stuff that was not like it is now. It is the 3rd century until you start coming up with these fancy mausoleums and all of the different pretty places to meet. As a matter of fact, if you pay attention, Christians were not allowed in the temple. Hebrews that became Christians were not allowed in the temple. Common man wasn't even allowed into the inside of the tabernacle.
Women weren't either, except
they
they went
weren't.
in their own court.
Exactly. See what I'm saying? So you have to, use it in its context as far as that goes. So, at any rate, when it talks about that, it says present time. It's a temporal adverb talking about this particular time. And the time is a time of crisis or decision. This is any day that you're functioning in planet Earth can be a crisis or a decision. Every time you get up in the morning, you determine what your attitude for the day is going to be. Yes, your mouth was going to be.
I think somebody wanted
I
to
was
say
gonna-
Oh, somebody's going to say something. I'm sorry.
So, here, was dwelling on this.
Uh-oh. Yes, sir.
God did not judge
Correct.
sins
Mhm.
prior to Christ. But in effect, I'm trying to figure, so he didn't make a final judgment, but he did.
No. No, let me.
It was mad, right?
So, when the floods came,
Okay.
I kind of consider that,
It's pretty serious judgment.
yes.
Yes.
And then I can't remember all.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom, right.
Sodom and Gomorrah, yeah. Okay.
And then when the guy picked up the,
Okay. All right. All right. So let's clear up the foggies. What you're saying is exceedingly true. Okay. How many good people were there on the earth at the time of the flood?
5 good people. 8.
How many people got on the ark at the flood?
Hey,
I don't know how good they were, but they made it inside the door. Okay. 8. Okay. Now, the rest of the people, there was nothing reserved, there was nothing passed over for them. Why? They had no belief system. They were morally good. There are more hot people in morally good hell than Heinz has pickles. But there were 8 people right here that had something credited to their account. What was credited to their account? Plus R. Okay? So he's saying, I passed by all of the plus R's boo-boos.
So you're saying none of them went off the rails anyway?
Well, no, because when he got off the boat, he had a little humdinger of a tied one on and had a little yippee session with a couple of chicks, and there was a problem with
Yeah,
it.
that was rhetorical.
Yeah, okay, just, you know. But the thing of it is you have to understand, once you're plus R,
So you're saying this
he
verse
does
only-
not see your boo-boos.
So you're saying this verse only applies to folks who are plus R?
Plus R, yes.
So he did judge non,
Yes.
He
We're-
did not believe.
let's put it this way, till the cows come home, there is nobody outside of Jesus Christ that is not going to be judged in some fashion somewhere. Anybody that has stepped into Christ will escape the wrath of God at every turn. Doesn't mean I won't go through catastrophes. It doesn't mean I won't go through disasters. Okay?
And it doesn't mean that the Lord won't chastise you.
Correct. Doesn't mean he's welcome to discipline me anytime. But that does never changes my standing as plus R. Okay? Plus R. Okay?
I think one of the.
Does that make sense? Does that help your question?
So for those who were saved
Correct.
and physically died on the earth,
Correct.
he held off
Correct.
final judgment until Christ
Correct.
atoned for their sin.
Yes.
And
Do you
then-
have
And
a
then when are they going to be judged? Or were they judged at that time?
who
So their sins were judged at the cross.
at the cross? Yeah. All that would. Do you have a driver's license?
No.
Okay. All you did was he gave you your car, your driver's license, so to speak. He said, okay, now I need you to present this when I tell you to. You don't know why. You don't realize you're going to be driving. I'm not worried about that. I remember at the age of 16, the best thing I could ever possibly get was my driver's license. I thought that was the ultimate freedom. I didn't realize that man, it was free to run into the back of this car, and free to run into that tree. I didn't realize all that. But it was freedom. Same thing. You've stepped into Jesus Christ. You now have that card, and you are a free will item, but you have chosen to follow him. You are now plus R. So as you go in the Old Testament times, as you go towards the cross, you don't know why. You know, you're going to put that thing on a lanyard around your neck, and you're going to walk with it, and it's going to hit you in the chest all the time. You say, God, I wish I knew why I was hanging on to this thing. I mean, you know what you believe, but you don't know the ramifications. Well, eventually, you're going to be dead, you're going to be buried, but you know what's still hanging around your neck? Your lanyard with your tag on it. And the day that he went onto the cross, and the day that he died, and the day that he took all that wrath, something happened to that lanyard. What happened to that lanyard? All of a sudden it came up and said, done, paid. You are no longer in any situation at all. You totally now belong to me. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't care what you knew, how you knew it, when you knew it, or where you knew it. In the Old Testament, you are exactly like Christ now. And that's what I see. I don't see any of the foibles. I don't see anything. You are now a genuine, redeemed individual waiting for the second coming of your Christ.
The ultimate driver's license endorsement.
Yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I got it.
Okay, all right.
Bob,
Because,
you're out of time.
Oops, sorry.
oh, that's okay. No, that's all right. That's all right.
We have a game show.
Usually
Bobby, you're now on top.
we get that with Big Mike over here.
What do we got for him?
Does this mean we're in the final round? Are we in the final round?
Well, we're getting closer. All right, where are we at now? We got to righteousness and that and there, and we're over here, temporal, time, him, where we at?
So,
Be a good place to stop.
Where?
Present time, be okay to stop right there? Because we're gonna do the of him, we do him, point of reference, his righteousness, agent of justice. Yeah, start on the second line right there, on 241. Okay? We'll start right there. Okay. Yeah. List of the
Sorry, yes.
All right. See what we got here. I've got Ken, James, Debbie, Mrs. Helton, Ann, Pam, Amy, Tom, and Kay. Tom was doing a little better this week. He was feeling a little better after his second treatment, so still hammering him. So I put in here Sunday school changeover the 11th. I'll keep telling you that until we do it. All the folks that are fighting the flu out there, keep them in your prayers. This is one of those deals that goes and comes and goes and comes and goes and comes. You feel like somebody drug you through a knothole, so, okay. I'm asking for some more cool weather before March, okay? Hopefully that'll happen. Keep Shirley Burns. She's trying to get the logistics worked out to where she has somebody come watch Larry so she can come to Sunday school again. So I think her daughter-in-law said they would do it, but they had the flu today, so we didn't want to do that. Liz is post-surgery, and she's doing okay. I'm going to try to give her a holler this week. You talked to her last week, so she's doing pretty good. Mary Ann has an unspoken one. Ramsey family health tests, health and tests. Okay, all right. And Kathy put Tyra Allgreen on here, her health, so that she gets squared away. Mark, prostate surgery last Friday, pray for healing and family. Josh, work at school. And Julie, job. Or different job.
Job hunting.
What's that?
Job hunting.
Job hunting, yes, job hunting.
Put Marshall down for that too.
Put Marshall down there for that too? Okay. He doesn't want to be a banker?
I know what he wants to do.
Oh.
That's the beauty of the age, huh?
Yeah.
All
I,
out there.
I'm not sure, Tom and Edith may have started going to Orsino. I mean, that's where she sings in the choir now and everything since they kicked her out of our choir. So anyway, so just keep them in your prayer. They might not be, they might be sick. I'll check on them this week, but they might be going up there so they can go right across the road to church. So.
How's your mom?
Physically pretty good. We had some really spacey conversations. Whatever happened on the 18th took what last little bit of reality she had. So, I don't think I'm having affairs with the nurses this week, but I think I was there when they robbed the place.
It's quite entertaining.
Just trying things out, you know?
Tom and Edith had, I think it was their grandson and wife or somebody coming in to visit, so they may have.
That might have been it too. So I know they were thinking about it when we were messing with the Sunday school, and I didn't know what their decision was since it stayed the same. So
So
Okay.
boredom
Do they
is
know
not,
about
so
it?
just keep.
Do they know that it's staying the same?
Yes, yeah, they were here last week. I think I'll keep telling them. Go
so
ahead.
boredom is not a part of her emotional makeup.
Oh Lord, no, heavens no! And the more stimuli she has, the more of these stories just come flying through the door. Let me tell you. So, but.
Tom seems
She
a little
said the other day, somebody was dragging her around by the hair. Well, she's got a wig, so they're not gonna take you very far. And then when you get the wig off, there's about 4 strands that are left from the regular head. So somebody was really working overtime to move her around by her hair. So, I mean, that's just from pragmatic looking at it. Okay, I'm not sure how the rest of it works. Okay.
No dull moments there.
I will keep you entertained as the time goes on, just so you know. So,
John was gonna say something.
okay. but
John.
we're-
No, I'm not.
I'm sorry, you can't top that one, can you? Okay.
I thought you were-
Touchdown, LSU. No, that's okay. All right. So we'll just pray and I'll turn you loose. Thank you, Lord, for today. We thank you for allowing us just to laugh at life. Pray that you'd watch over us, allow us to take what doctrine you put in our hearts today, allow us to experientially work it out during the world. And above all, get us back here safely next week, and the rest of them that are out doing whatever, sick, whatever, just kind of work in those situations and get them back to us. We ask you to do all these things in your precious Son's name, Jesus. Amen.